Hey guys, you know, when AEW was announced, a lot of fans, if not the entire internet wrestling fan base, um, even casual fans, started to get hyped up about it. I mean, the fact that you had um, this new wrestling promotion starting from the ground up and being backed by an established billionaire family, it has a lot. Basically has a lot of merit to it. But of course, with the positives come the negatives, or in this case, you have your supporters, but you also have your detractors. And those several videos that I saw, two in particular, one by OTRSCentral and TheBradRules. Now, OTRSCentral, the Schleg Daddy, Jeff Siegel there, was more basically along the lines of, hey, let's kind of cool our jets right now. Let's see what happens first, and then maybe after they kind of find their footing and progress from there, we could start hyping up of how good this promotion is. Well, on the other hand, TheBradRules plainly said it in the title of his video of why he feels AEW, All Elite Wrestling, will fail. And both have a right to their opinions. Now, I haven't watched Brad's all that much, but I did watch Jeff's. And Jeff, again, like I said, is more along the lines of he doesn't want us as fellow wrestling fans to get hurt if the hype we give for something like AEW turns out to be false, or turns on its side, but turns on a side that's belly up. The reason I want to respond to that is because I understand where they're coming from. Now, am I in support of AEW succeeding and probably helping the wrestling business and any wrestling companies out there that need a bit of a push to get better? Absolutely. Heck, we already see its effects on WWE, if you will, this past week on Raw and on SmackDown Live. So we can tell that even WWE is kind of keeping an eye on AEW, even though AEW hasn't even had one event yet. Well, if you want to look at All In as being sort of the pilot event, then there you go. Well, that answers that question. But anyway, it's even got WWE even before it, like I said, has its first real official event, Double or Nothing, starting to kind of turn the wheels in their heads again of like, okay, we're going to probably have competition. Let's up our ante. Let's kind of change things up a little bit to kind of give us that edge again that we once had, so that AEW knows it's going to be in for a fight if they want to go against us. Now, again, going back to what Jeff said in his video, kind of playing off that, if you take a look at other examples in entertainment, sports entertainment and all that, mostly entertainment in general, then the hype you get for something, if you hype something up too much, thinking it's going to be the next big thing, that it's going to be this big blockbuster that you've been waiting for and you're hyping it up to be because you feel it's going to be what it should be, and then it turns out to be a dud, or it turns out to be not what you hoped for, and thus your hype and your trust in what you thought would be good is broken and destroyed. I can see where Jeff Siegel's coming from when he says, look, hold the phone, halt the brakes. Let's not rush into things too soon, because this might all turn out to be a farce, or this might all turn out to be a dud. This might all turn out to be, something that goes belly up, that blows up in the face of the Khan family and Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks and Hangman Page and all those involved. And I see where Jeff's coming from, because when GFW, whether you like Jeff Jarrett or you don't, was being promoted as this new next big wrestling thing that was going to help wrestling create this next big wrestling boom, what came of it? Absolutely nothing. No matter how hard they tried, GFW, Global Force Wrestling, wasn't able to do a thing. I mean, the closest they ever got to getting a TV deal was the tapings they had, and that was about it. And now you can basically see those tapings on one night only events, courtesy of the GWN network, if that at all. And the other closest exposure they've ever had, I should say, was when they would be part of New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom, and when Cody Rhodes at WrestleCade won the GFW Next Gen title, and that was about it. You haven't heard anything from them since, except maybe being this sporadic independent company that is basically a lighter version of the NWA, and that's about it. And I think when I hear Jeff say what he did in his video about, hey, let's pump the brakes for a minute and try to cool this hypeness down for AEW, I see what he's getting at, because he doesn't want any of us as a fellow fan, he doesn't want any of us, whether a casual, hardcore, or whatever, to be disappointed if the hype turns out to be a dud, turns out to be not exactly what we expect. Heck, I even said it in a video where I talked about AEW. I think it was one of the first videos I did on AEW. I said the one thing that they have to be careful with this company, and what a lot of people are fearing, and I think Jeff in his own way kind of pointed this out a little bit when he compared the possible similarities to what GFW was, is essentially Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks making this company all about them. I mean, when you think about it, all three of them are executive vice presidents in the company, so they have leeway that even as performers, they can put themselves on top of the promotion as much as they want. And I think that's what Jeff is trying to, as a fellow fan, is trying to prepare us for. That if this hype just turns out to be nothing more than a vanity project for the Bucks and Cody to basically flaunt how good they are, win the main championships, the main tag team championships as many times as they want, and screw all the talent they brought in, just so they can showcase to the world and maybe mostly to Vince McMahon, WWE, hey, see, we're major players, we can be world champions, here we are. You know, I can understand Jeff when he comes around and he says, look, let's pump the brakes, because until it's proven to us that Cody and the Young Bucks are not going to make this company about them or anybody that's part of their little elite group, then I can understand where Jeff's coming from. Because one, there is no TV deal just yet, but eventually I guess there will be. But again, I can understand what he's saying. It's like, you take a look, for example, when Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice was announced, everybody was hyping that up to be this next big thing in the comic book movie industry, and it turned out to be nothing more than, I guess in some fans' eyes, a dud. Yeah, it raked in a lot of money, broke a few records, but critically from a critic's standpoint, and from a overall comic book fan, and overall movie-going audience, Batman v Superman was a complete waste. It was like, you took a look at the trailers, and even though one trailer basically gave away who one of the supervillains was going to be in the movie, and then the other trailer kind of made up for that by trying to say, hey, forget that one, check out this one. Batman v Superman was just all over the place, and people didn't like it. Even the critics didn't like it because they felt, like I said, it was a waste of time. And they didn't think Justice League would be any better. I mean, why do you think they changed directors, not just in the middle of it? Now, okay, you could say Zack Snyder was gone because of personal reasons. That's fine. But even with the change of directors, and yes, the change did help out a little bit. Justice League, even though it made a lot of money, blew. It basically, as good as a movie as it is, didn't meet the expectations that fans were hoping for, or even Warner Brothers and DC Comics was hoping for. And the one common denominator in that is when they did the comparison between the DCEU, the DC Comics Extended Universe, compared to the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Basically, they said the one common denominator is the MCU succeeded because they took their time. The DCEU failed because they rushed into things. And the hype that the DCEU was getting was for naught. And the only successful films out of this universe so far have been Wonder Woman and Aquaman. And that's it. So when I hear Jeff go on his channel and try to explain in his own unique way, let's not get carried away with the hype of AEW. By using those comparisons of those movies to look at that, I can see what he means. Because basically what he's looking at is a company that, if they're not careful and they don't take their time and they rush into things, will basically become like the Batman v Superman and the Justice League of professional wrestling. The hype will be great, but the payoff will fail. And they don't need that. And then when I take a look at a video like TheBradRules, and again, I haven't watched all of that, I can see by the title of his video, what he means by it's going to fail. He's basically looking back at history of other wrestling promotions that tried to rise up from the ashes of WCW and ECW and what formerly TNA used to be, to try to be that next big alternative competitor and promotion to WWE. He looks at AEW as a promotion that's going to follow the same path. It's going to go down the same path. It's going to start out strong, but in the end it's going to fail. It's going to fall at the feet of WWE, because what he sees, and I'm sure a lot of people see, is if AEW, even if they take it step by step, we already see what's going on, and they haven't, we already see what they're doing, or the effect they're having on WWE. I mean, WWE basically did two similar segments, well, different but similar segments on Raw and SmackDown, that normally these are kind of segments that you would see during the Ruthless Aggression era or the Attitude era. You have a cameraman or a prop man or whatever, some kind of backstage handler, going to Alexa Bliss's locker room or dressing room, telling her, hey, you're on in a few moments, opening the door, and she's covering her breasts. She's half freaking naked, and she has to cover her breasts. And then you take a look with the whole, Mandy Rose trying to seduce Jimmy Uso so she can break up Jimmy and Naomi's marriage storyline, and the hotel thing that they had. Again, this is stuff you would have seen in the Ruthless Aggression era and the Attitude era. So WWE is already starting to go in that direction, kind of take these little steps to try to win back their audience. I can see where TheBradRules is coming from when he says AEW is going to fail, because what he sees, like I said, is AEW is going to wake up a freaking sleeping giant in WWE, and that's going to be their downfall. Because to him, it's not going to matter. And again, I haven't watched most of the video, but I can tell that Brad is the kind of guy that would look at the fact that, oh yeah, you could have a billionaire family backing you up, but that's not going to matter if you're waking up a sleeping giant of an established promotion that's been in this predicament before. Again, why do you think WWA failed? Why do you think, TNA failed as it was and had to be repackaged into Impact Wrestling as it is now? All because of the fact that these, again, in XPW, in XWF, all these promotions that tried to rise up from the ashes of WCW, they've rise from the ashes that was once WCW and ECW, failed because all they did in the long run, despite people not mentioning it, is continuously keep that sleeping giant awake, because they would try to be that alternative and be the answer becoming the next WCW or next ECW, and by doing so they kept the sleeping giant known as WWE alert and awake to make sure they snuffed out any potential competition they could have. Because whether we want to admit it or not, a lot of these promotions had the potential that if the money and the backing was right, the financial backing and everything was right for them, and yes, that did play a problem too, they could have easily been the next WCW if ran behind the scenes they were ran correctly. They could have been the next WCW. They could have been the next ECW. Again, if they were run right. But like I said, I see what Brad said. But again, this is where TheBradRules' video and the title of this video comes in. Because are those companies around anymore? No. Are they trying? Some of them trying to return from the ashes? Yes. But they failed because they tried to rush. They tried to rush into things, and by rushing into things, they awoke a sleeping. They kept a sleeping giant in WWE alert and awake. And you can't tell me that WWE didn't have some kind of presence behind all this that ensured these companies financially didn't succeed. The point is, guys, in the long run, both Jeff Siegel at OTRSCentral and Brad at TheBradRules have the right to their opinions. And by mentioning the things that I did when it coincides in response to both the videos, again, I can see where they're both coming from. But here it is. But in the end, the ball is in AEW's court. The ball is in the Khan family's court. The ball is in Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks' court. They need to be the ones that play that ball correctly. They need to be the ones that make sure they write up the plays, the blueprints, whatever you want to call them, correctly, to make sure they don't follow down the same path that TheBradRules pretty much thinks they're going to follow and fail, as well as try to play the cards right and kind of pass that ball around to make sure that the hype that fans are giving it right now, is for something and not for not. So, again, the ball is in their court. So, that's all I'm really going to say, guys. If you want to know more, check out OTRSCentral's video on AEW, as well as TheBradRules' video on AEW. That's all I'm going to say, guys. Let me know what you think down below. Comment if you like. And I'll talk to y'all later. God bless. Take care. But again, in the end, the ball is in AEW's court.